Okay. All right, guys. Consistent with Executive Order N 2920, in-person participation by the public will not be permitted, and no physical location from which the public may observe the meeting will be available. Remote public participation is allowed using the Zoom program. Okay. If we're going to move forward, let's call the meeting to order and do a roll call. So let's see, we have Margie
Here.
Jeff,
Here as well.
Lars,
Here.
and myself.
And actually, our newest member that was just appointed by council, who has had her orientation, is Barbara Harris. And so she's here, and Chair Wirtz, if she may have wanted to welcome her and also ask her to just say a couple words about her background in the arts.
Absolutely. Welcome, Barbara. It's so nice
Welcome.
to meet you. Yeah, please
you.
go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Barbara Harris. I've lived in Sebastopol since 1972. I met Warren Arnold, of whom I'm replacing for the rest of his term, about 1975, and we've both been very involved in the arts, often together. I worked as executive director of the Cultural Arts Council for 14 years. I worked at Becoming Independent, which is a program for developmental adults, managing their art program in their gallery down on South A Street. I am the docent coordinator for the Oliver Ranch, which is a sculpture garden in Geyserville. I'm semi-retired and I am a visual artist. I make jewelry and I do commercial hand lettering. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So that makes a full group today. It's exciting. Let's move forward to the approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to see the minutes from the last meeting? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from July 14th?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, so no comments. We'll go ahead with the second and the approval.
Sorry. Jumped it.
Okay. The motion is approved for the minutes for the July 14th meeting. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great.
And Chair Wirtz, one moment. I'm going to ask for any abstentions because I know Ms. Harris wasn't at that meeting.
So I do abstain.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I did not catch the motion in the second. Who did those? If you could just let me know.
Margie.
Jeff was the motion and Margie was the second.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to comments from the public regarding items not on the agenda. I noticed there's some folks here, so I don't know if that's public comment or not.
So I believe the three folks who are here for the item 6A, the Upcycle Art Project, to
Got it.
present and discuss with the committee. But if anyone from the committee or our guests have any comments for items not on the agenda, now would be the time. And I will note we have not received any via email for items either on or off the agenda.
Thanks, Carrie. Do you have anything, Margie? Did you wait?
No, I'm sorry. That was,
Okay. Okay. Great. Move on. Let's do, is there any statements of conflict of interest? Okay, we'll move right into the regular agenda item 6A for the Upcycle Art Project. We did not get a written report on this, so I'm not sure who wants to start, but we're really excited to hear what you've got.
All right, and I will just hand it directly over to the committee with one note that this is a project that the council has authorized and has approved a portion of the public art funds to do. So this group is here to talk with the Public Art Committee in terms of what the project is and get any advice, feedback, input, etc. on that. Sunny, who's going to share screen? Is it? Can you just raise your hand? Is it all of you? You're muted, Sunny.
Carrie, can you just give a little more background to that? Is this just something one of the council members thought up and now we're doing it, or what?
This is actually from, and I'll let the group discuss a little bit more, but the Zero Waste Committee and the Climate Action Committee.
Thank you.
I think the host has disabled screen. Oh no, maybe it's back on. Let's see, Carissa, do you wanna, or actually maybe I should share screen since I know you have to leave, Carissa, at 10:45. So
That would be great. Thank you.
let me see if I'm wiper. Let me do that real quick. Okay.
Oh,
So, we'll have, Chris is going to start, and then hopefully I have another student who is supposed to be on here to share some of our slides as well. If she doesn't make it, I will share her slides, but Chris is going to explain the concept. So go take it away, Carissa.
All right. Hello, everyone. And thank you for taking the time today to listen to our project idea. I'm super excited about it, and I hope that our presentation will do the project justice. Now, without further ado, Community Upcycled Art Project. Next slide, please.
Okay. Oh shoot, I got off. Sorry.
No problem.
Somehow lost my screen. Hold on, let me stop sharing for 1 second. I'll share again. Okay. See, right? Okay.
Okay, so this project will achieve the education and engagement goals of both the Zero Waste and Climate Action Sebastopol City Council committees. So on the Climate Action Committee side, we want to find climate change solutions that can be easily implemented anywhere. We want to use these solutions to give every person a voice and eventually help every community fight climate change in their own fun and beautiful, because why not, way. And this will help the Zero Waste Committee with their goals of reducing waste produced by Sebastopol businesses. And again, it'll educate businesses and residents and possibly even tourists. You never know. Next slide, please.
And we will we'll share this slideshow with you guys so you can go back and read at your leisure.
Mm-hmm. So our idea is to have multiple smaller projects so we can get as much community collaboration as possible. We also want to have all of the smaller projects linked together in some way, so there's some cohesion. We want people to kind of be able to walk by one art piece and then another and think, wait, that looks familiar, and then maybe stay for a second and learn about what we're trying to teach. And this will come up later again when we talk about the scavenger hunt feature that we want to implement. And part of our vision is that these pieces are kind of from the community for the community. So we'd like to have surrounding schools and civic organizations participate in creating and educating, and then researching for the project could also be used as a learning tool for the creators as well, which would be really cool. And each group would get kind of a theme to work with: watershed, waste reduction, et cetera, et cetera. So we were thinking that because we can't be super picky about materials because we're using recycled materials, it would be more practical for the exhibit to travel so that some projects could be indoors. Plus this way we could move our projects to different events like the Farmers Market, Gravenstein Apple Fair, Apple Blossom Festival, the Santa Rosa Junior College Climate Action Night. And then this would also make it easier for places to adopt more fragile pieces to, again, keep in indoor locations. Next slide, please. So here's an example of a project similar to what we're talking about. These fabulous pieces were all made entirely out of trash by Recology's public education manager, Marie Niemeyer. She'll be joining us on the project. And this is just one example of one person who's had actual experience with this art form and its potential to be educational, and is also super excited about our project.
And let's see, so Sophia, are you on now? Is this your slide?
Okay, these are some of our collaborators so far. So we got a few quite a few supporters that have a lot of experience with this these topics of upcycling and as well as art. Next slide, please. And so our concepts for this is to have one central piece that will connect all the other sub-themes, which will be a kaleidoscope, which represents a looking glass or how we see the world. And we want this project to be able to affect how everyone else sees the world through like an educational view, so that we could see how everything is connected and how everything makes an impact for our earth and the environment. Next slide, please. So, and then we'll have a bunch of watershed, a bunch of supporting pieces that have different, more specific environmental themes like watershed, waste reduction, energy conservation. And each piece will have a QR code, which will take us to a website that has our a bunch of material and information that will be created by students from many different high schools. And
Could you-
that will go deeper on all these information. Do you have a question?
Could you please say who created these, the ones we're seeing?
These are
same
just
person?
examples that will be our inspiration for when we create our real project.
So you don't know who did these?
These particular pieces, yeah, are
Yes.
just images we found online, examples of upcycled art. So yeah, we haven't created our pieces yet.
Thank you.
We ready for the next slide, Sophia?
Next slide, please. So our process so far, we've had 3 Zoom meetings to create our themes and create the plan to have our concepts and sub-themes. And then we had one in-person design charrette, where we had a presentation from our guest artist, Ned Kahn, who has his work in Sebastopol with the wind sculptures. And he presented some of his work and some of his other work that all relates to environment and gave us many ideas. Then we brainstormed some ideas and started building and creating and prototyping our different ideas to model. And then we presented them to each other in that bottom right picture. We each took turns and we were able to contribute feedback to each other and inspire each other. And there were so many cool ideas. Next slide. And these are some more pictures, more up close pictures of our process from the design charrette. And we're going to continue having more of these to generate even more ideas and have some more ideas that people can work on together. So for some projects, we're trying to create like a framework that others, because this is a group project, that others can contribute. And some they'll have a bigger vision, and then everyone else can contribute to that vision as well. And I think that's the end of our presentation. So if you have any questions, we'd love to hear.
I'll stop our share. There we go. And I don't know, Nolly, do you want to say anything a little more?
Hi, I'm Nolly. I'm part of the committee that's working on this. I just wanted, if Carissa, you're still here. Okay. Do you have one of the models that you worked on in the design charrette that you can share? And Sophia as well?
Yes, 1 second. Sophia, do you want to go first if you have it? Oh, okay.
I could grab my model later, but for now I have my sketch from. I have a few sketches that I made the first design charrette. So a lot of us did sketch out our designs first, and some people just went straight into our prototypes with recycled materials that we had.
Either of you want to elaborate more on what that idea was for that sculpture piece?
Was that the kaleidoscope, Sophia?
Yeah, I have my initial idea for a kaleidoscope, which was like the geometric geode pattern that would reflect all the plastic. And I also, there's yours. That's a cool one.
Yeah,
Mm,
so
projects.
I think part of our idea was to make the end of the kaleidoscope turn with solar panels and just have it be built like a regular kaleidoscope, but with all recycled materials.
Well, could you describe the size of the kaleidoscope?
Yes, it would probably be on the larger side. Again, we want to be able to transport it, so it wouldn't be able to be too big unless we're able to deconstruct it. We didn't have an exact size that we decided on, but we were thinking more something larger.
Like that image you showed us, as big as that, with somebody standing up at this level looking at it?
I wonder if whatever transports it could be part of the project itself.
I want to make sure you guys are done with your presentation before, are you guys done? Because then we can go through and have everybody ask a bunch of questions. Does that work?
Yeah, I'll just add one thing, in terms of the logistics of it. We're working with Annalee art teacher, or West County High School art teacher, and make teacher, and Orchard View art teacher, and our web design teacher. So some of the projects will be created in classes in our high schools. And then so we already have several classes that want to create projects. And then we're going to be doing outreach to other classroom, younger children, and then also community groups. So the idea is to have a lot of different groups that have contributed a piece, and hopefully some cross collaboration between those groups as well. So the process itself brings people together. And then the pieces are something that could come together, like we do zero waste days at the farmers market. We participate in the SRJC Climate Action Night. So they could come together for certain events, Apple Blossom Fair, and be educational. Each has a QR code that takes you to a website put together by students that has information on these different environmental and community themes. But then perhaps, and this is still kind of in the planning phase, but also perhaps have a more extended period of time where pieces are adopted by local businesses, and people can sort of do a scavenger hunt through town, and find a piece at, a coffee shop or in the window of Copperfield or something. And that has a QR code, again, takes to that same website. So it's a bit of like an activity one could come and do in Sebastopol to see these community created pieces, and then also be educated about solutions to some of the, various environmental and social issues we're looking to highlight.
Thank you, Sunny. Sophia or Sonali, do you have anything else?
That covered it pretty well.
Okay, great. You mind if we go through and everybody ask a few questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Margie, did you have any questions for them?
Yes. I hear that you are thinking about presenting at art events and connecting with local businesses for presenting your pieces. And I'm wondering two things. One is, what are there other locations that you are thinking of, and what you are hoping for in terms of connecting with the PAC?
So because our pieces will be transportable, we could pretty much put them in any location, but I think we had a few spots in mind. Like, I think there was some ideas for downtown Sebastopol. Sonali or Sunny, if you'd like to elaborate on more details, that'd be great.
I'd be happy to share. We are looking at.
Excuse me, Sonali, it's
Yes.
very hard to hear you. Can you adjust your volume at all, your speaker?
How's this? Any good?
It's better, I think. Thank you.
Okay, yes, no problem. we're looking at having both the community members and people who are visiting Sebastopol integrate with a wide array of sections of the community. So bringing people into the Laguna, bringing people to the south end of town, bringing people out of their cars and making them more bipedal. So if that answers the question, we're open to a list of places that could potentially host the pieces. And as far as PAC goes, we would love any input or construction and collaboration as well. We want to integrate as many assets of the community as possible.
So it sounds like you have no specific locations right now. You have ideas for that. And 2, you have not specific things you're hoping for from the PAC, but just generally input. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Margie, just to add on to that, as I was in my orientation with Barbara, I kind of described that I always describe the PAC as the city's artistic curators. And so especially when public art funds are being used for a project, we want to make sure that the PAC has a chance to review and provide input on these projects.
So what's the funding? The PAC funding? I didn't catch that.
Sure. So the city council in their budget process this year did allocate, and Sonny remind me of I believe it's $2,500 from the Public Art Fund to support this project. So that's similar to when they were approached by the Black Lives Matter for the mural. They allocated funding from this, from the Public Art Fund for that piece. So this is kind of similar in that way, where this is a recommendation from council or approval of budget with PAC funds. And so we want to make sure we get the PAC input on the project.
Thank you.
Was similar, although when the Black Lives Matter folks, they came to us and then we went to city council. This is city council just saying yes and then coming to us after, right? So it's a little opposite.
It's maybe similar. The Black Lives Matter folks actually did go to council first, and then council recommended, and so we agendized. I think we had actually a special meeting after council recommended, based on council's desire for us to work with them.
Okay, so let's get some more questions off the ground so we fully understand, because I think we're in the dark. Barbara, go ahead.
Is there a budget for this that someone has developed that has a beginning and an end amount of money that could be allocated or fundraised for?
I think she just said it was $2,500.
Well, I know that's from PAC, but I mean for the whole project.
It's $3,300 is my understanding, is what was allocated from the city, and we have yet to construct a budget. The committee has talked about wanting to have funds to help support, in particular, people to participate who otherwise would not be able to participate. And because the materials are coming from upcycled materials, that's our goal. So we're still working on putting together the entire proposal along with the budget, which we plan to have done by mid-September.
The reason I'm asking is it may be an opportunity for the sponsors, those who would be hosting some of the pieces, to contribute financially, maybe matching the funds from the city, and give them that chance to be seen and heard and contributed by. I'm sorry that I'm not as familiar, but is there an entity or a committee or a group that's spearheading this? I mean, it sounds like first of all, it's a wonderful idea to me personally and professionally. I think it's great, but I'm just wondering who's running the ship, kind of. Is it the schools or?
So it's a joint project of the city Zero Waste Committee and the Climate Action Committee. So I'm on the Zero Waste Committee, and Sonali's on the Climate Action Committee. And then I'm also a teacher at Orchard View School in Sebastopol, and I work a lot. My son is a student, and I do a lot of collaborating with West County High. So I know a lot of teachers in the community. So that's, and then and then James Freed, who's a Sebastopol resident. He's an SRJC art and design professor. So it's Sunali and James and I are sort of like the nucleus committee. And then we have a few students in leadership roles like Carissa and Sophia. And then also Recology, their education coordinator who we saw on the slideshow. So those are sort of kind of the core people that are, doing the central visioning. And then we'll be bringing in, groups to contribute pieces. And as far as I know your committee does a lot, approves if there's something that's going to be outside or permanent. We're realizing with our upcycled materials, it's probably not feasible to have them just on display outside for a long period of time because they're just not going to last that long. So we're still in the process of figuring out is this, will it come together for particular events, and then maybe this thing where we adopt it to have businesses adopt and they're inside. So that's still honestly in process.
Thank you. But if someone were to want to be interested in either volunteering time, materials, or money, as there's a point person or entity again that they could contact.
Yeah, so that would be me or Sunali or James.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question.
Jeff, I saw you had your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. First of all, I just want to really appreciate this committee or committees and the overlap. Really exciting project. Really appreciate all your energy and your work so far. I really appreciate how inclusive this is of different community groups. For me, no real questions other than as a former local teacher, definitely extending it, hi Sunny, to as many of the local schools as are interested, and perhaps even considering it down the road as a traveling exhibit that could go and be displayed at schools, thus promoting upcycling, kind of like a science fair, like a format like that. And I'd also really encourage the committee to try to promote larger pieces if possible, whether they're team approaches or individual projects, so that they're all not too small. So that's it for me. Thanks again.
Thanks, Jeff.
I just realized where I recognized you from years ago. We did some
Yes,
work posts together.
Hey, Lars, do you have anything before I ask my questions?
Couple things. Thanks very much for putting this all together. It sounds great, especially love having the students not just involved, but here presenting and in a leadership position. That's awesome. Schedule, do you have any sense of schedule with this? Is this something you want to, obviously you're starting, but do you have a sense of how it's going to move forward?
Yeah, so we are, the leadership team is going to have like the sort of parameters and descriptions for the pieces that we can then, share with local schools and community groups mid-September. And then we're hoping to have the pieces, the Santa Rosa Junior College Climate Action Night, which I co-chair, is going to be either March or April. So that is one event that we would like to have them travel to. And so that's sort of our goal timeline. And then going forward from there, we would schedule them for, Sebastopol Farmers Market, if we have a Gravenstein Apple Fair and the Apple Blossom Festival. And then perhaps like this scavenger hunt, extended scavenger hunt would maybe be like a summer thing. We could even collaborate with I work with Peacetown organizers. I help do the compost and recycling there. We just got that going last week. Check it out. So like that could be a fun, next summer, maybe they spend some time at Peacetown and there's some interaction there. So that's, would you say, Sunali, does that represent our timeline? Our kind of hard goal is this climate action night, which is March or April, and then traveling through our community in the spring and summer.
Yes,
Okay.
We were thinking about doing a debut, as Sunny mentioned, at the Sebastopol Apple Fair, which they just did a fundraising event for. So I think they're anticipating being on board.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're planning on doing a press release and a rollout and an outreach to the community mid-September, because the idea is for the kaleidoscope piece, for that central piece of engaging as many contributors from our community as we can, so they're all represented within it.
Okay. That sounds great. Thank you. I think on the scavenger hunt idea, when you first said it or was first presented, I think it'd be really fascinating to not just scavenger hunt, sort of find the pieces that have been made, but to actually find the materials to make a piece. So, you know, or if you have a presentation day at Peachtown or something, there's tables with materials that people could build pieces as well. I've done projects with students building architecture models from found materials, and it's just an awesome time. You know, an hour of time, and they come up with amazing stuff. You know, so I think that would be fun. And locations, I'd say, like, you know, like my storefront is a very visible, beautiful spot. I'd be happy to put stuff there. I think involving the local businesses would be a really great thing to do in town as well. So that's my comments. Thanks so much.
Those are super good ideas, Lars. I love that. And we had talked about having some pieces that could be actually sort of constructed at, say, a farmer's market, and then people come by a table and they add scales to a fish, and the scales are bottle caps, or, you know, things like that. So there will be some pieces we envision being able to be made during a public sort of event.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many good ideas in this group. I think Sunali and Sophia and I are probably, and Carissa had to go, but we're probably all thinking, ooh, we got to come back to this group for more ideas. So maybe we could schedule a time in, you know, your next meeting or the meeting after, where we, you know, when our proposal is fleshed out, to kind of run it, you know, have you guys take, or we could share it, you know, digitally and give you guys comment access, because wow, what a great group of people to get feedback from, huh, Sunali and Sophia?
Yes, agreed. And thank you for all the support. And back to one of the asks is, we are still in the design phase of the engineering of the kaleidoscope. And so that's something that we could use support and input for specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, I think maybe a good next step for us, because Sunali and James and I and Sophia and Chris are meeting, is to think of, like, what are some specific asks from the community, like very specific, and then bring it to you guys. And maybe there's someone in this committee that could fulfill an ask, or knows someone that could. You know, you guys are well connected in the local art world, local art scene. So that would be, you know, once we have very more specific asks, or even lists, you know, materials lists, like we need, you know, bottle caps, we need this, you know, we could start to build and collect those. And maybe this group could help us disseminate that information, or match us with people that in the community that would like to help on a specific ask.
So I hear that some of you have to leave. No, Jen has not had her questions or input yet, and I think that would be important. And I know I have a couple things in response to just what you just asked for, and so on. So I hope you can at least hear for Jen, and also tell us the most effective way to send you any further information from this meeting.
Thanks, Margie. Yeah, I did have a couple of questions. I want to make sure I fully understand what you guys need from us. One thing I understood was that you're looking for locations. I think all of us could come up with a couple of locations that we could see easily putting a couple of pieces of these art. Also, you're looking for materials, right? So I work, for instance, for a number of wineries. I easily could come up with a ton of, like, wine corks, right? So something super fun like that could be used. But are you getting other materials from other places as well? Like, you already have some set spots, like the recycling center, or?
Yeah, once we know what materials we want, we can kind of put an order in, and they can pull things from the MRF, the sorting center. But yeah, that is a good point. And maybe we even need, what might be good to create a doc where if we know there's a lot of a waste material in the community, we can actually choose that because there is a lot of that. Like if we know there's a lot of corks or we know there's a lot of bottle, so that is, we should put that on our list, Sunali, for our next phase, is like collecting information about what is there excess of in the community. We know plastic water bottles, for instance, and how might, when we're reaching out to groups and having them work on a theme, we could say we have 500 of these, see, how might you work that into your design?
Right, and when you're working on something like, I know you said you're still working on your budget, but when you're working on that as well, think about really what you need from us, because we are a great resource for all kinds of fun ideas. So to locations, to items, everybody here has just connections with all kinds of people through the community. I think that, yeah, it'd be really, really fun to help on this. And also I'm wondering, so Sunali mentioned that it was 3,300. What, do you have an idea yet of what you're using that money for? If a lot of these materials are free and the students are doing it for free, where's that some of that money going? For materials that you'll need to use for the project?
So there are, certain like hardware pieces, and there will be some things we need to buy. Also storage contain, if this is a transportable thing, we need to think about, pieces that can be deconstructed into a few pieces and then stored in like a bin or something. Stands for the item. So if it's, this cool 3-dimensional octopus made out of bottle, I don't know, off the top of my head, if that is displayed somewhere, do we have a stand for that? So it's a little bit sort of the support for that. And then, to be totally honest, the city budget cycle came up really early in our idea. So and we had to kind of get that out there. So we're reverse engineering a little bit the budget, to be honest. We had like a week early on in our design project process to get into the yearly budget cycle. The other thought we had is, when we were thinking of, we wanted to maybe collaborate with the Grayton Day Labor Center. I have some contacts there and work in, community members, workers' rights, social justice into some of the themes of our pieces. There might be people in our community that, or even students that we could offer a very small stipend to be maybe a team leader on something or an organizer. I'm volunteering, Sunali and I and Sophie, we're all volunteering our time at this point, but it would be lovely if we could use a little bit of that to offer a stipend to kind of honor the time of a couple of, lead students or community members that might not otherwise be able to participate as a volunteer. So that was a thought we just had the other day, honestly. So we're still fleshing out the budget. Yeah.
And my last question, go ahead, Sunali.
Oh, just in addition to that, even though we're trying to figure out the Sebastopol Arts Center might host the site, just there might be some technicalities in that department for budget that we would need to support, because that's the QR codes will take people to an online site to educate and engage on these issues more in depth. That will be
though I was going to say,
go ahead.
The website piece and a little bit of the back end work on that is going to maybe take actually paying someone. So yeah.
Got it. And then I guess, obviously you're taking in consideration everything going on with, I'm just thinking of bottles and COVID and how I just can't see putting a public piece out with something like where people's lips have touched and then putting that in public. So of course that's the first thing in my mind. I don't know, I'm sure you're thinking about all of that, obviously, especially as being in schools. But I had to ask, because it's just, I don't know how you put something
yeah, we would definitely, do the research for, how long do we need to quarantine, say, these items before it's safe for people to be working with them. So any, virus, bacteria, that they have a, limited shelf life that they live on things. And so any of these reused items, they would be, quarantined for that amount of time before people worked with them as art items or they were out in the public sphere. So yeah, that is
Thank you.
it's definitely a
Thank you.
consideration.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I love hearing about this. Margie, you had one more?
Yeah. If the Kaleidoscope is going to be your central unit, my suggestion is that you work very hard to have that be a very powerful artistic creation. And there are two artists locally. I'm so glad, one, I'm glad to hear that you're working with Ned, and the other is Patrick and Brigitte Amnio, who also work with found objects, and perhaps you could get them to help coordinate and formulate this, even though others may be participating. I just hope you make that a very powerful visual and strong and artistic visual image. The other is that it's great, wonderful ideas, great spirit. And I'd love to hear more specifics in terms of some of the things that have been brought up: budget, location, ideas, just very specific things, or things that you need help with, and your ideas of resources.
Yeah, will you come back in September? Or possibly the next meeting, whenever you put some more stuff together, we would love to hear more. Yeah.
What is the date of the September meeting?
Right now, it would be the first Wednesday of September. However, I'm not positive if that'll stay on that date or not. Carrie, do you have any ideas?
That is on our agenda to discuss. So I don't know, Sunny, can I get with you after the meeting and let you know when?
That would be a little early for us to have new information.
Right.
But
That's what I'm thinking.
But the October, it's so you meet once a month. Sounds
Right.
Yeah, so October we'd be definitely ready with some specifics in October.
We can share our working document that any of you are welcome to comment on and give input on, so that it is truly a community like orchestrated, plan that we plan to put out to the community mid-September. That'll be finalized with the budget, with all these elements.
I'm unsure if we would all be able to comment on it or if we would have to have a specific liaison to be the commenter. Carrie, is that something that everyone could share and just comment on, or would that be like a subcommittee situation?
I think certainly as, I may want to check with the city attorney on that, but I think if it's, as members of the public, you certainly have the ability to comment on that. If you're giving, since this isn't necessarily something that PAC needs to approve, it's a sort of an assistance program. I think it may be fine for you to just go ahead and comment. But I will check in with the city attorney on that.
Thank you.
With the city
Thank
clerk,
you.
yeah.
If everybody is good, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to bring back in October. And if there's any other questions or any final thoughts that you guys would like to share, we could hear those. But otherwise, I think it was great. Barbara, you had one more?
Just one quick one. Sonoma County has a lot of Burning Man artists, and when they're off season, so to speak, I think a lot of them are really approachable. I can help you with some of that.
That would be awesome.
Well, they're heading out soon, so
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to talk to them for a couple of weeks. So
We'll catch them in October.
exactly. All right, you guys, thank you so much. What an exciting project.
It's-
Really super
Guys,
fun.
Good
And
to work with you.
yeah, so good to work with you. Really looking forward to this. I think everybody is.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Thank you for all the
Thanks,
support
guys.
and enthusiasm and
Thank you.
suggestions. Yeah, appreciate
Thank
it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, that was really fun. I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to that. Let's move on to 6B, the Sculpture Garden Art Call Review of Proposals. Do we have any?
So yes, we do. These were included in the packet, which I can certainly put up on the screen. I don't know how the committee wants to discuss them. I believe we got 9 proposals that were pretty specific. And then I think one that was quite a Zimeo link, but not a specific arts proposal. So just as a reminder and a refresher for Barbara, who's our newest member and it wasn't at prior meetings, we do have a couple of meetings where we're anticipating reviewing the sculptures. The pack, we want to review the number of items. If you have some flexibility as terms of, choosing from what is already there, selecting the ones you feel would be great, opening up the call again if you feel like you want more. We have the 8 pads that are installed. I assume you've all been by Ives Park by this time and seen them, which I think they're nice little plinths. And ready to go. So there's a lot of different ways, and I would suggest the pack just start off discussions. And like I said, I'm happy to show the screen if you want to go through the proposals.
Should we go through them really quick? It's 11:15 and the last item is pretty small, so I think we have time.
Oh, good.
If you want to just run through them, we don't have to spend a lot of time discussing each one, but you could show us all of them. And then we can just, we're not voting on anything today as far as I understand, but if we could just take a quick look together.
Correct. Yeah. And we can print these out for people and send them out if people want printed copies of these. That might be a little bit easier. But I'll just go through them in the order they're in the packet, which is probably the order received.
Yeah, I can't read that. So if you can.
So
What you read.
so we're just gonna look through these and what, yell out, love it, hate it, or what? How are we doing?
Can't read it.
I think we should just look first, and then maybe we can do a quick discussion or.
Sure. Okay. And so the first proposal is from Beth Hartman.
Can you
So
make it
this-
any larger?
Well, there's a whole description, but
Right.
I think we don't have a lot of time. It seems like we could just look at the image.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can.
That's
What I
fine.
can do is that a little bit better.
A little bit, yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but I don't think we have time to read the text here together on the screen, right? Like,
Okay,
Yeah. So the first is from Beth Hartman, and let's see, support person
the
number
next
1.
has a bigger image, I think.
You're right. I think you're correct. So this is a pretty heavy sculpture. There's actually a good picture of it.
Mm.
It's about 11 feet tall, I believe, the description had.
That's right, 11 feet tall by 3 by 3 is what she's saying.
Thank you. Yeah, there you go. There you can see the base 3 by 3. And so the pads that we have at the sculpture garden are 4 by 4. So obviously fits on that. The second is from Brenda Phillips. And she does note that the sculpture would be about 6 to 7 feet tall, would incorporate a mix of ceramic, glass, and metal, and could be done with or without a pad. This is this is a piece she recently did in Santa Rosa, and she doesn't have a specific design, but this is her portfolio, if you will, in terms of what she might do in Sebastopol. And so this is the, oops, I have to zoom out a little bit. And so the metal rod, obviously, at the base of it would be if it was without the sculpture pad. All right, and the next is, I can't pronounce the name necessarily, Briona Hendren is my best guess on that. And it is the pieces at the bottom. It's called Medallion. She is proposing this for one of the sculpture pads, as you can see below. but it would extend beyond in the laser coated cut steel piece. Zoom back out again. Caro Penderton has, so this is a smaller piece. It's 32 inches by 18 inches by 10 inches. But this is a stone sculpture. There's a couple more images of it. And the next one, this is Dan Rico. He's the individual who had submitted the Vimeo link to his work, but did not have a specific sculpture.
I couldn't make that link work.
I saw it. It's very impressive and international. So my question was, is he local? Where, you know, and what idea did he have for the garden?
Yeah, I don't know if he's local. We can certainly confirm from him since we did have him in the call, but we wanted Sonoma County artists. So we can confirm on that and get back to the group as part of your evaluation. We can also try to print out, the Vimeo was literally a video, so I'm not sure. I guess I don't know how to do screen capture from that, but we can maybe try to do a couple screen captures so that, or see if we can get that link to work for others. The next piece is from Lynn Diedler, and this is, I guess, a tribute to the Frizzell Enos fire that happened a few years back.
Wow.
What year was that? That was 2013. So that was almost a decade ago at this point. And then we have a 3 foot by 5 foot steel sculpture from Noah Caraher, called Forked Tree. This is the sketch of it. So again, designed to be mounted on a base. And I thought he had a larger image of that, but I'll just name it on this. Okay, and then there's a submission from Philip Frischetti. And this is a stone sculpture estimating about 6 to 7 feet. And he does have some images of it. Hold on. So this is kind of the inspiration image. And I know I'm not doing this justice to the various artists, so I'll definitely get these packets out to people.
That was my question. Has everybody received this packet except for me? I know Lars is commenting that he saw some, but I cannot see in an email that I got any of it.
I didn't either.
I didn't either. Well, I wouldn't, but
Well, there was a link. There's a link in, the.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So
The only one I got was the video from Vimeo.
Same. I saw Daniel's video, and
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Got it. Okay, so this was this is included on the website under the PAC meeting date. So when that information was sent out to you, but it sounds like it was the actual PDF was not sent to the group, and I apologize for that. So we will definitely get this out both as a PDF, so you have it electronically, as well as would you all like a printed version of this or just the PDF?
A PDF is fine with me as long as it's fine with everybody else.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I see it
Yeah.
now. I see
Okay.
it. I'm sorry I missed that. I totally have it.
I didn't see
I have
so-
it. It's on the page. It's on the link from the email under
Okay,
the meeting details on the City of Sebastopol site. It's Sculpture Garden submissions complete.
to be sure, could you maybe just send it by itself?
I can send you the link if you want, Margie.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think we might have sent it by the link because with all of the images, I think it might have become a pretty big
Yeah.
file to email. So, but yeah, we can
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
make sure everyone has the link.
And so is there an
Um,
image from her?
Yeah, sorry. So
Oh,
this
okay.
is from Sarah. I'll just keep going through them. She is, it's a clay totem that's about 6 feet tall and 12 inches in diameter. And I guess she doesn't have any additional photos for that. And then Jeff Sankel. And so the dimensions on this is about, what is that, 7 feet? 120 inches is actually, it's taller than that. 120 inches is 12 feet. So it's quite tall.
And
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 it comes
for
with this, sorry, Lars?
10 feet, 10 foot 8.
Thank you. Thank you, 10 foot 8. I'm still not doing my math right.
Nice.
But this is a stainless steel and aluminum sculpture.
What's on the top? Can you,
It's like a.
Yeah, I
little
think there's
picture.
another image. Hold on. There's a bigger picture of it where it's,
is there a description what that is? Is that a revolving light or
I
what?
sent you the link if you want to look at.
Thank
don't
you,
know
I
if you
saw
have a
that.
Double screen, but it might be.
I'll check it out.
easier.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jen.
you're welcome.
What is that?
let me see if he describes what that is.
Oh, that's Jeffrey Zankel. I love his work.
It's okay. I guess we can, when I get it, when I look through it, I'll figure it out. If he says,
Oh,
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure.
Okay.
If it's an operable piece or not.
oh my.
All right. Yeah, there's a little bit of detail on that one.
Wow.
And that's it. So those for the submissions. Like I said, we did get more submissions than we have sculpture pads, although I think 1 or 2 of these could be done without pads, as noted.
Wow.
So I don't know how you guys would like to go through this. I definitely have some comments on 1 or 2, but are we at the point now where we would go ahead and vote on which ones of these would go ahead and be on pads? Or are we just not there yet and we're, Margie,
Doesn't seem like people have seen them really, other than that quick glimpse. So
we definitely need some
vote
time.
today.
Could we take the time to look through this and maybe put some notes together and then vote maybe in our September meeting? I think since we have enough to vote.
so there's, discussion and comments, and then there's voting. And I'm not sure, I mean, we could do them all in one meeting, but it just sounds like, so you had some specific questions, and I'm wondering if we had any questions we might send back to the artists and get replies from them.
Yeah, and given that it sounds like a couple of you haven't had the links until just now, for our process, and we had set aside both this meeting and our next meeting to get to our next meeting if we wanted to go the way of finalists, or if you had questions and you wanted some of the artists to come. We don't necessarily have to have the artists come, but as Margie, I think your suggestion of if people have questions that they want us to send to the artists, we could, you can either discuss or you could send them to me after the meeting, after you've had a chance to go through the proposals a little bit more. As staff, we can get the artists those questions and get responses for you for your next meeting or before your next meeting. Then you can have maybe a more thorough discussion next meeting.
So my feeling is if we had one meeting to talk and discuss them, and then the following meeting to think about that further and maybe get more input from the artists if we needed it or whatever, and then to vote on the meeting afterwards. So if we have whenever the meeting is in September, which is either in a couple of weeks or otherwise, and then there's the October. It's my feeling.
And then we also, sorry, go ahead, Lars.
Well, I think, I mean, I looked through them in some detail, and there's, most of them are a piece that is being proposed, I'd say, or many of them. There are a couple that are not that. So I would say from the list, we could easily ask for the one, we're not asking for a conceptual idea. This is my type of work. I'd love to do a sculpture out there. We're asking for a specific piece, right? So it seems like we could clarify the ones that aren't clear in that way, so that by next meeting, we have a list of actual pieces we're looking at. So we're not postponing it another month because we're waiting for information from artists.
I totally agree. That was exactly what I was going to say. We are asking for pieces that are already done, that they can go onto the pads. So that does take out a few of these, because we weren't
Yeah.
asking for just ideas of something that you will build for us for this.
Yeah.
So
like, just as an example, there's one piece that has a plant on it, and we've had this discussion before. And we discussed it a lot, that our conclusion at that time was that to have a plant as part of a long-term, even a year sculpture is a little bit fraught. So
have plants on all of them.
what?
He doesn't have plants on all of them. And some of those succulents would last the whole year without being watered.
But that's one, for example, that she's showing us a piece in
She's
Santa
showing,
Rosa.
right.
She's
She's still
us a
not
piece
showing.
for Sebastopol.
Yeah. Hers, to me, unless she came up with an exact one, she doesn't have one that she's showing that she would
Oh,
put on
okay,
her
I thought
pad.
it was a one.
So that one
Because
doesn't even-
my idea was like, could she make something that was in the succulent image, but not a living plant?
Let me ask you, Margie, are we
Yeah.
asking for people to make something for this that they haven't made yet? Or are we asking for sculptures that are already made and ready to put on these pads? I was under the impression that we were asking for sculptures that are done and ready to go.
Yeah, yeah.
So hers would not be included in.
Okay. Do
So
we
do you
want,
think-
Ready to go.
so here's another question. Do we want to, if someone went to the trouble of doing that whole thing, except they didn't have a specific piece, do we want to give them the opportunity of a couple weeks or so on to respond with a specific piece, or just make them
Absolutely.
invalid?
Oh,
Well, it's actually half. If I just went through the list, there's half that are actual pieces, and there are half that are proposals, or
Yeah, that's
even not proposals. They're just, oh, I did this one over here, and I would do something similar.
Yeah, and maybe we worded it wrong, and this is a great learning lesson for us for the future. It's like,
Yeah.
we're looking for a piece that you have done to put on these pads, not propose of an idea that you might do.
So maybe we could,
Ask them if they have something.
have something, vote on, the specific proposals. And I would like to at least give the people that, and it's half, the opportunity to, and a week or two to come up with something.
Well, Barbara, go ahead. Let Barbara.
Well,
Yeah.
are we in a hurry? I mean, is there a deadline or something for this, that we have to have an already completed piece? Because I would hate to disqualify someone who has a great idea that could be executed, but not in a meet a deadline, but not within the 2 or 3 weeks that
Yeah.
we're requesting. I just think that first of all, I'm really impressed with what was received. My experience has been there's an awful lot of art that I've seen that isn't of the caliber that this is. So I'm excited about it. And I think that being as public as Ives Park and having that many pieces in one area is really an opportunity for us to highlight sculpture. And I think that all of these I'm impressed with, but I would hope that we would have the ability to take our time and encourage people who have a concept to execute it, by agreeing that, yes, we want your work, but and we want the schematic to create a finished product, not necessarily only require a finished product to be considered.
I'm
Does that
going to
make
let
sense?
Margie talk on this, but just really quick, Barbara, we have built the pads. They're ready to
Yeah.
go. We've been working on this for quite a while, and this isn't permanent. All these people who applied, they can still build them and they can put them in next year, and that's fine. But as far as like being in a rush, the pads are there and they are ready to go. And we have been working on this for quite a while. So I think that Go ahead, Margie or Carrie, you also had your hand raised, so.
Carrie?
Yeah, I was gonna clarify in our call, we do note that the installation will take place in September of this year. So presumably any of the artists that, and this is where we can contact them and ask for clarification. Presumably some of those that might have the concepts should have the expectation that we would need the sculpture to be ready to be installed by September, because that is in the call. We can contact those who haven't submitted specific pieces and I guess confirm that they would have a piece ready to go, and then also to provide specifics on their concept for the Ives Park Sculpture Garden, not just pieces from their portfolio.
Is it possible for the installation to begin in September and create kind of a sense of excitement that yes, one would be installed and then soon after another one and another, so that there's kind of this anticipation from the public that wow, this thing is happening, but to have them all installed at once might dilute the impact.
It'll dilute an opening. I would love to see an opening
Yeah,
where they're all done and we have an opening for the new sculpture garden where they're all in place.
that's
And
a
that-
great idea.
So that would be all of them in,
Okay,
and not spread them out. We would have a sculpture garden opening where we put them in place. And that's just my idea.
but
But
I
Margie, this is your baby, so why don't you talk about, what are your comments on that, Margie?
Well, I want to hear from Jeff. He's
Or
got
Jeff, go
something to
ahead, yeah,
say.
yeah.
Well, because of the number of pads that, the committee determined to put in and have been poured, I would agree that it would be important to contact those without solid pieces and kind of give them that deadline, remind them of that. Perhaps, who knows, they're really busy and they just overlooked that final deadline. Give them that benefit of the doubt. Also, as far as locating them, and remind me if I've forgotten this piece, but I'm assuming it's the PAC's oversight in terms of which paths, which pieces will be located upon. And because of that, that's going to take some discussion as well, I would assume. I would anticipate some fairly in-depth feedback from members of this committee, so that once we've looked over the pieces, each of us, and hopefully written down our notes, we'll be able to use our time as expediently as possible to discuss and approve the pieces.
And maybe Carrie, you could reach out to the folks who had an idea or wanted to be a part of it and just say, do you have a piece that you're actually proposing? Do you have one there that you're ready to put in? And then by September meeting, which is just 2 weeks away or even less, we can actually vote on that. And like Jeff said, decide where they're going. And that could be the majority of our, especially with the upcycle folks not coming back, we would really have some significant time to be able to work some of that out and hopefully even start putting them in, which is just so exciting after this long of working on it. It just would love to see it, but
So, yeah.
Margie,
Okay.
yes, go.
Okay. First of all, I did not see the list, as I said. So as far as I had heard, there weren't even enough applications. And I had communicated with Warren, and then I was thinking about maybe, and he was suggesting we need to postpone it and do other things and to generate. And so I'm delighted that we have this many. And I agree with Barbara. I think I'm really impressed by the level of quality of quite a number of them. So that's lovely. And I am not, I understand we made a statement, but then Carrie was saying, well, maybe we'll select some and then reopen it. So I don't think things are as rigid or as fixed. And I actually like Barbara's idea also of possibly putting in one or two, and then, a few days later, another one, and that we have a date by which they all have to be up, but maybe that date could be shifted slightly. So that's one thing. I do want to give people who have already applied but not have specific, because that's half. So if they're 9, that's like 4.5 people, 4.5 sculptures.
There's
so
10. There's 10
Oh,
10 people.
Okay,
Yeah.
5 then. If you, yeah, okay, 5. So that's, so I'd like to give them the opportunity, not, do you have or can you have something
Yeah.
by this date? Maybe they would give us a, the design, and then we'd say, well, I haven't finished making it, but I can have it by this date. And part of the question is too, are we going to meet in just 2 weeks? Because we had to move this meeting, forward, and then, so what are we going to do about that? And so therefore, how much time is there actually? So I would not be opposed to looking at our schedule. Moving it ahead 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that, I don't think is terrible. And we could just say, well, that's it. This was the deadline. We're not going to be reopening it to but we are going to let those that put in, because as you say, it's a learning thing, and maybe it was not clear enough that it already needs to be.
Mhm.
So that's
Well, in that regard, we did anticipate having some questions for the artists and, having a second follow-up meeting once we'd seen the proposals.
Yeah.
So can I just weigh in? Because I've looked through them all. There's 5 that are proposed pieces that are clearly done pieces. There's 3 that are giving a sketch and a specific proposal for this, this sculpture garden. It's an artist who's actually done a little sketch, right? It's going to be these stacked stones, that kind of thing, right? So I think those 3 to me we should definitely invite to, say, if we like them, I guess, or like, when could you have this done by, kind of thing, right? And then there's the one other that had the succulents that is, she's sort of, it seems like proposing just replicating another version of that. So that's kind of similar. So there's the only one that's really has no form is the video one.
And we could ask him if he has one, because he seems to
Right.
have a really impressive history.
Yeah.
Jeff,
So
you had another.
There's 5 people that we could reach out to and say, what's your specific one, and could you have it done? If we said yes to you, when could you have it done by? Kind of.
So perhaps we could do that, and whenever our next meeting is, go over it and see if we get to the point that we can vote and say yes, and if not, put it to the next meeting.
Mhm.
And Jeff, did you have a comment?
I did. Thank you, Jen. In a couple of the pieces, when we do discuss them, an artist may need some feedback from the pack in terms of perhaps the format is too small to really carry it through in the CSG. And I'm also thinking we probably will need some views of the CSG for our discussion, particularly when we're talking about which pads we feel strongest for which pieces. Do we have signage ready? So when we actually start allowing artists to install their pieces, the signage will be in place. I also like the mystery of just having a couple of them installed at a time, kind of progressively filling the garden. I think that would be cool for people that are experiencing that space, or even just walking through, how they're going to see each week or so, they're going to see another piece or 2 or 3 pop up. And as far as the meeting goes, for me, I'm actually going to be on a plane on our typical first Wednesday of September meeting. I'd love to Zoom it wherever I am, but I don't think I'm going to have the capacity to do that. So just putting that out there too.
We could possibly talk about pushing that so we could have a full group, maybe to the second Wednesday of September, to give us all a little bit more time as well.
Good, because I will be coming off my second phase of my root canal that same day.
By the way, you're doing great.
Really?
So great,
Thank
Dennis. Carrie?
Yeah, I'm actually, I sit on a board, voting membership board for the Community Development Commission that has a second meeting every month.
Okay.
I left it early for this meeting, but it normally goes from 10 till noon. But I do have the 22nd open, if that's possible for
The
people.
third Wednesday of the month. Do you have the second? Oh, you're saying every Wednesday?
Oh, sorry. No, it looks like it's the third Wednesday of every
Okay,
month.
so you have
Sorry.
the
So I would be
second
available on the
Wednesday of
8th.
September.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that would be fine. Sorry. Yeah. The 8th we're talking about.
8th. So I'm going to be in Denver, but I could join anyway.
8th is good for me.
Barbara, can you do the 8th?
Oh, yeah, I can. But I
Okay,
have
let's
I
do
have a
that.
couple of questions. Number one is, what does CSG mean?
Community Sculpture
Sculpture.
Garden.
Oh, that's the name of the project. Okay, got it. And then the second one was, Jen, did you have a date in mind for the opening?
Well, so we're not gonna, my idea was, because this is our first big thing, I would love to see one grand opening
Oh,
where we
yeah.
all show up and we, cut a ribbon and Margie,
Yeah.
all of her hard work really shines, and we celebrate this with a full garden. This is a really important thing that we've done, that we've worked on for just, it seems like years. So for me, I would love to see the whole thing, and not just slowly one piece after another, but if that's the way everybody decides it should be, that's fine with me too.
But the opening could be fabulous. I mean,
With
once
one
it's
or
all-
two sculptures, I'd like to.
No. I mean, once it's all installed, which wouldn't take that long, I can't imagine. But before it's pouring down rain.
And
Hopefully.
we will discuss this at the next meeting, right?
Okay.
So I would just like to say one quick comment. I want everyone to Google the rocks. Stacking rocks is environmentally impacting in a negative way. I've heard about these, you should not build cairns. They're called cairns. It's a Gaelic word. It's appropriating of another culture, and it's illegal in a lot of national parks.
Wow.
For me to see that one, I think there's some issues with stacking rocks, and I've been out in a lot of, hiking in a lot of woods. This is something that a lot of people could be offended by. It's the only one that I say I just think everyone needs to Google it and then come back to the next meeting and say, do we really want to see stacked rocks as one of our first sculpture pieces?
Thank you.
Okay, everyone take the time to do that, because this is also something I've recently learned. I used to think was beautiful. I thought it was super
Yeah, I've
cool.
never heard of that before.
Yeah, well,
I
take
did
some
not.
time, just Google it and see what other people think, and how it is illegal in a lot of national parks to
Great.
put up cairns.
So just quickly, does anyone have any other strong feelings about something? One of the ones you saw, just quickly, yes.
I think the metal one from the Frizelinos fire is very unattractive.
I agree.
Oh,
It's
I
like
agree.
it's kind of a piece of garbage
Yes.
folded up and put on a platform. To me, that's not that one I like.
It could bring up some PTSD from fires too.
Yeah,
To that part of it, actually, to me is interesting, but aesthetically, to me, it's not a welcoming, interesting piece.
I agree.
Okay, so
And Barbara, you had something?
no, except that was my favorite, but I'm not going to get into that right now.
we got time for the
Sorry.
next meeting.
And I just want to say, I feel strongly about not having a living plant. I think there's a lot of reasons not to do that.
And she could
For
make
the
it a bird
plant's
bath.
sake, what?
And she could make it a bird bath.
Fine, just, I don't want to get into living plants there.
Got it.
So Margie, just so I understand, because it looked like she had a water reservoir included with it for watering the plant. What was it, a maintenance issue or some other issue that you're concerned with?
I have seen, a lot of succulents. We have succulents. They don't always do well. They don't always do well for a year, and they start looking a little sad. Also, it's very easy to do something to a little living plant if you wanted to do something. I just don't think it's practical, and I don't think it's a good idea. And there are other places for living plants.
Okay, and I'm asking mostly so I can, well, A, for my own education, but also so that when we contact the artist, we can ask you, can you do this without a living plant?
Right, maybe
Incorporated into it?
make a plant or just have it a bird bath. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have a lot of homework. Barbara, one last thing.
Real quickly, the stone sculptural figure to me was the least impressive because it's reminiscent of so much stone sculptural figure work that's commonplace.
Great. And I'm inviting everybody to Google how people are offended by those and how it's maybe.
She's talking not about the stacking stones.
Yeah,
but
No,
the
the
figure.
other,
the
the
abstract.
form.
Okay,
the
okay,
figure.
I understand. Yep.
But I'd like to say,
Torso,
Barbara,
yeah, the
that
torso.
we weren't, this was kind of for community sculpture, so it's not saying it has to be like a commission level. So if
Okay,
it is
no.
common, to me, that's not as bad.
Okay. I think it's more of a subjective thing than yeah. I applaud the community inclusion, but just it's like one more vineyard, and I think that's okay.
All right, let's move on because we got 10 more minutes. We did a sign for the entryway of the sculpture garden. I think Carrie has it, can share the screen. If it's fine, let's just all thumbs up and move on. If it's not, I can adjust whatever that you need adjusted. And then I don't know if everybody wants individual signs for individual sculptures, but that is definitely something for the next meeting, I think.
So are we
Sorry,
going to see
Jen.
this?
So did you want me to share the signage concept? Is that what you're asking, Jen?
Isn't that, I'm sorry, we're moving on to 6C. That would be the standard signage for city public art.
Yes.
And
yeah,
that would be
let-
the first sign that we did, right? For the entryway?
Yes, correct. And let me just go to your images of that. And hopefully I can zoom in because it's showing up really small on my screen, but let me see what I can do. And
Oh,
I know, like I said, it's really small. Let me see if I can
Simple.
just- let me see if I can forward this.
I mean, can everybody see it and get a gist of what that
Mhm.
says?
Yeah.
I can.
Okay, well, you don't have to blow it up, Carrie. It's very,
Oh, I just gotta blow it up.
And
There we
what was
go.
there it is. What was the idea again for the size of this? And
that is 8x4. So this is $78. And this is,
8 inches by 4 inches.
it is small. We could
Yeah.
go bigger. This is already $78 as it is. We could certainly go bigger for an entryway piece and then have the 8x4s for the individual pads if you wanted to do that, but
What's it made of?
steel.
And is it in color or just
Black,
black?
it's just engraved on
Uh-huh.
metal, yes.
and
Yeah.
how would it be mounted?
I have 4 holes drilled and it comes with screws. So I'm assuming for the entryway piece, we could find a piece of wood to screw it on, where the pads, I might not put screws in it. The option to put screws with holes are there on the website. Maybe we glue them. I don't know how you want to do them. Maybe we get concrete screws. How many times we're going to be able to drill into the same spot to redo that each year? I don't know how long that'll last before the holes are just stripped out.
Yeah.
Why would we need to redo it?
Well, we could always do a screw that goes in and then a circular, Lars might know what those are, but it's like a cap. They do sell those on these websites where you put the cap back on and you replace this. So you could put the screw mounted into the, anyway, I don't think we need that for this one.
First
And
of all,
can show options for
I just want to say thank you so much, Jen. I really
Oh,
think
it
it's an
took me 2
excellent
minutes.
job.
Mhm.
It's because you had
Ye-
that skill before that. And so so one of each entrance was my understanding, but it could be wrong. And then one on each piece of cement would
Right,
not
so-
have the title, so wouldn't have to be removed. It's just the same image. So it wouldn't have to be replaced each year.
It would be replaced with each sculpture. You're saying on each individual
No, it wouldn't
pad.
need to be if it's just on the,
So we're not identifying the piece or the artist?
Maybe that could be attached to the sculpture in some way.
Attached to the sculpture?
Maybe their title and the artist, no?
We can include screws that would be permanent inside of each pad, on one side of each pad, with a knob almost that we
Okay.
can replace the pad each time. Although you're
Okay.
talking about this is going to be almost pushing $100 each time to switch out the plaque with the piece, right? So it's just another thing to think about budgetarily. If that's what you want to do. Otherwise, we just do the entryway pieces. And if somebody wants to add a title for their own sculpture, they can do that too.
You know, one of the other concepts, so a couple of things about this. One is that, thank you, Jen, so much for doing the design for the sign. And the intent is that this would also be similar with slightly different text for the Ned Kahn and Michael McGinnis permanent sculptures, that as we have more sculptures around town, it's recognizable as that's part of the public art committee and your projects. In terms of the sculpture garden, I'm actually just, I'm not sure if it makes sense, but I'm thinking about how Patrick Amiot has on Florence Avenue, he has kind of a little library kind of mailbox where people can take flyers that actually have a little bit about the different sculptures or a guide to the different sculptures. And I wonder if that might be a better way for the actual sculptures to provide a guide, that people can sort of, like the little map, basically. And that's something that, staff can print at City Hall and just put in a sort of a little letterbox, mailbox kind of a thing for people adjacent to wherever the initial signs are.
I love that
for
idea.
It's
It's
fine.
a lot
Yeah.
more feasible, yeah.
And then that would just be keyed to a number or a letter that's on the base.
Yeah, or a little diagram with a map kind of a thing.
Or a photo. I think, we
Yeah.
don't even need to number them as much
Oh,
as
there you go.
put a
Yeah.
small photo on and no one's going to get confused with, is it this one, But let's think about that as homework, if everyone's cool with that. And then if everyone's okay with this as the sign for the entryway, and if you wanted one at each end, we could just order 2 of those. They're not huge. They're 4 inches by 8 inches.
But you said you could do them bigger.
Small.
I think they should be bigger.
That's too small for the.
That's too
entry.
small.
Yeah.
I
So-
went with a cheaper option. It gets a little expensive, but if you want, I can increase the size.
And this might be one where, I can talk to Dante at Public Works and see, how would these be mounted? I'm thinking about how parks do interpretive signs and things like that, where if you had if it was 8x4, you can almost do it on a 8x8 or something like that, post stuck in the ground and cut at an angle. But for a larger sign, certainly there's maybe a couple of options that she might know about.
Also,
This-
Carrie Ted Luthen would be a good resource.
And the city
Excellent,
works
yeah.
with Ron Blair. He's redone the city of Sebastopol signs. I've worked with him a bunch too.
Right. So so we can maybe think about ways to, is there a small base or something that we can permanently affix as part of the 2 entries, and then mount this to that. And that maybe if we have sort of a general size range, we can work forward with that.
I definitely think they need to be significantly bigger. And this project is actually done on the cheap. So I think we have a little leeway to spend something for the signs that are going to be up, hopefully, for several years. And I'm thinking I'd have to go look at it, but I know there's lots of signage in town about, even right there at Ives Park in the entranceway, there's some signage there that's a good size and so on. And so I hope it's a good size. I want it to be a good size. That's my feeling. And also to look serious.
I just wanted to say, first of all, Jen, yeah, I really like what you did with the sign. I like the simplicity of it. And I do think it's important for one or more of us to be out there and actually consider the best location for the sign or signs, and perhaps even consider, I don't know if it's a discount to get two at one time, but maybe get one done, perhaps along the street, and feel that out, and then say, oh yeah, that looks great. The size is correct. Now we'll get another one like that.
Maybe I'll go out there and I could hold up a tape measure. One of the size options is 24 by 18, something like that might be a little, 2 feet.
That's a pretty good
yeah,
size. I think
right.
18 might even be bigger, considering most people, probably users reading the sign, are going to be pedestrians, although along the street would be cars,
Yeah.
perhaps.
And
I don't know if you'd want people to, for cars.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it
Also,
should be
how-
more pedestrian oriented.
How do we
I think
fit
doubling.
something 2 feet wide where this is beyond just putting up a pole or, something
2
24
poles.
by 18, 2 poles, right? Okay.
Normal.
I think it's not, besides the fact that it's 12 o'clock, this is not our expertise, but we have Dante, Ted Luth, and on the design review board, this is what he does for a living.
Okay, let's get some ideas.
And, this has been done before in the world, right? Let's go
Okay,
to that.
let's just get that great and go and discuss it further next meeting. How's that?
Yeah.
All worthy of bringing up in September 8th, which is now our new meeting date. Let's just round it out with, Carrie, do you have a really quick planning?
I
for us?
will be super, super brief. Let's see, the only thing, I did send out a invite for our planning commission meeting next Tuesday night. We are kicking off the project to look at how we might naturalize Calder Creek in Ives Park. So obviously the north side of the sculpture garden, but all the way through the park. And so please join us if you can next Tuesday to get community input. It's envisioning on what direction we should be going with that project. And then I know I've talked about water conservation in the past, and the city did, if you're in city limits, I can't get this to zoom in accurately, but you should have gotten in your mail a water upgrade Bay Run flyer. So if you are interested in that, it's basically for water utility customers in the city and it's a program where they will come out, send someone out to Bay Run is actually, I think, part of ABAG, the regional government. But they'll send someone out to your house to do a water survey and suggest upgrades and help coordinate if you need help paying for those upgrades to include that in your water bill. So if you're interested in that, you should have gotten a flyer, and there's some numbers there where you can get some additional information on that. And I will just leave it at that.
Thank you so much. We're wrapping them up. Let's just move to adjourn since it's
So,
already.
so
Go
we're
ahead,
gonna
go ahead,
we're gonna
yes.
meet on the 8th of September, and thereafter we're gonna be on the first Wednesday of the month unless otherwise, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to say, again, welcome to Barbara. And
Oh.
I appreciate your
Yeah,
Oh, thank
intelligence
Welcome.
and background and input.
Oh, thank you. It's a great committee.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you. It was a great meeting. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, and we will see you all really soon. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Not yet. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
want to say briefly, really exciting, Margie and everyone else who worked on the community sculpture garden and has brought it this far.
Yeah.
So exciting to see this moving to this point. So
Thank you.
yes, I
And,
move to adjourn.
Thank you. And in the middle, I'll say we thank Warren also for all of his
Oh,
hard work
yes.
too, because
Thank
he's not
you,
here.
Warren.
Thank
Do
you,
I have a
Warren.
second?
Second.
Okay, great. If all in favor, say aye.
Aye. And
Aye.
thank you, Jen.
Thanks, everybody.
Anyone opposed? We
No.
are adjourned. Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
Welcome,
Bye.
Barbara.
Thank you.
Aye.
See you guys soon.
Bye.